In this video, I'm going to show you how to install PostgreSQL and PostGIS. In the first half of this tutorial series, I already show you how to get started with Google's engine and also how to do spatial analysis with Google's engine. Once you perform those analysis, and you might also want to export the results, so you can export results to your Google Drive or to your local computer. And so once you have those computers, you might need to think about a way to efficiently manage the data. And so the second half of this course, we're going to focus on spatial database. And the reason that we want the spatial database, because imagine that you're working on a project and you need to write some report with your team, right? So how do you actually write the report? You might use Microsoft Word document or any other editor. And everyone is working in an individual section, and so eventually you might need to combine those things together. So you can either send the document one by one to each individual, and then they work on each one work on the version sent by someone, and at the end you need to merge them together. So sometimes it might be a pain actually to resolve all the conflicts and to put things all together. So and nowadays you might also use for example Google Documents, right? So everyone can work on the same document, they can all modify, they can access the document using any device with an internet browser, right? They don't really have to install, for example, Microsoft Word document on their computer or on their iPad. And so you just need a browser, that's it. Essentially, database here, what we're trying to cover in each video is the similar idea, right? You can have a database and then you can put all the data within the database. Everyone can access that database, and then they can work on the same file without having to send back and forth, right? And it doesn't matter, right? You can use Windows, you can use Linux, or you can use Mac OS. You can also access using a web browser. For example, if you can build on some web applications, and then you can also retrieve data from the database. So essentially, at the end, you have a central database, and then they allow clients, basically web browser or desktop software, for example, ArcGIS or QGIS, to access the data. So this is just a brief introduction. We'll get into that more later in this course. For now, let's head over to browser, and then you can just type PostgreSQL or SQL. So SQL stands for Structural Query Language, and basically is that we can use write those syntax actually to query the database. And PostgreSQL is the object relational database, and it's free and open source. So it's very popular, and it has been there for I think almost 30 years, so more than a decade, right? 1996. And so we're also going to talk about PostGIS. So you can think about PostgreSQL is just an object relational database. It can store, for example, a structure like a spreadsheet data, but it cannot handle spatial data. So PostGIS basically is just an extension for PostgreSQL for handling spatial data. And so in order to do that, we need to install this one first. You can just do a quick Google search, and then you should be able to see the page. Click downloads, and from here you can select your operating system. I'm using Windows, right? If you're using Mac or Linux, you can select Mac. Right now the latest version is version 13. So on the upper left here you will see this one, the link, download the installer. So just click this one, and from here you can also select your operating system. So if you're using Mac, you will download this one. I'm using Windows, so I'm going to click the downloads button, and then it will ask you to download this one to your computer. So I already downloaded this one, so I don't need to re-download again. And let me just hit cancel. This is a survey, you can do that if you want. So next, we're going to install this one. So go to your downloads folder, and so this one is almost 200 gigabyte. Before we're going to install this package, I want to make sure that that we don't have any older version on the computer. So sometimes it might have a conflict. So to save some trouble in the future, I'm going to uninstall anything that's PostgreSQL that's an older version. They might come with, for example, ArcGIS or other software packages. So we want to make sure that we uninstall that one first. If you go to the programs and go to your control panel and then uninstall a program, you can do the sorting. So by name and then scroll down, see look for something start with P. Okay, so indeed we have an older version here, PostgreSQL 9.5. Right now we have a 13, so this one is very old. And like I said, to save us some trouble, I'm going to uninstall this one because sometimes it might have some conflict and it might take a while actually to resolve the issue. So the best way is actually to uninstall, and then we install the latest version, and then everything should be working out of box. So once you right click, it's going to ask you, do you want to uninstall PostgreSQL and its modules? Yes. So it's going to take some time to uninstall everything. We can also look for the directory. So to make sure that everything is uninstalled successfully, let's open the Windows directory. And it should be under somewhere. If you look at the directory here, C program files. So go to C program files and then PostgreSQL. So it's somewhere in here. And later, if there's still something left, we want to delete the entire folder. So let's wait for this one to finish. So make sure you do the same thing. Otherwise, you might have some trouble later on after we install the latest PostgreSQL version 13. Almost done, and let's wait for a couple of seconds. Once this one is uninstalled, use this one here should be gone. PostgreSQL right now it's still here. Okay. And so make sure you also click this one. Okay, the service has been removed, and then uninstall completed. You will still see this one here. The data folder is still here, and you can just hit delete on your keyboard to delete the entire folder. Click continue, and then you can just empty the recycle bin. So make sure right now it's clean. Then we can go ahead to install the latest version. Again, go to the downloads folder and then double click the installer. And it might take some time to open the installer. Okay, and good. So just hit next. We can just install to the default directory. So you'll be under program files, PostgreSQL, and then 13. Next. Here you have a couple options, and highly recommend that you just by default accept all the default settings. So we're going to install all these 4 components, and later we're going to use pretty much all of them. So just hit next and select a directory under which you want to store your data. We can just accept the default one. It's going to be under the installation directory, and then 13, and then a subfolder called data. And then next. So this one is very important. You need to set a password. So you're going to have a super user named PostgreSQL, and you need to remember the password. So next, after we finish the installation, if we need to connect to the database, we will need the password. So make sure you select the one that you're going to remember. So just type a password and then confirm the password again. Hit next. By default, it's using the port number 5432, and we're going to use a default one. You can change it if you want, but just use the default one to save some trouble. And then next, and that's it. It might take a couple minutes actually to finish the installation, and we're going to pause the video and come back later when it's finished. Okay, now the installation has successfully completed, and you can just hit finish to open the stack builder. And so just hit finish, and from here we're going to install PostGIS. You can select this one, then you should select the PostgreSQL 13. Next, it's going to download all the available extension. So on the left side here, click this one, Spatial Extensions. and then select PostGIS 3.1 bundle for so make sure you see the check mark. There are also some other things if you want to do, you can install as well. So for example, database drivers, you can install some of these one. So for example, let me just check some of those. We might use this later in this course, but for now we can also choose to install these database drivers later using just the stack builder. But we can also use that by default. The most important is to install this one, PostGIS 3.1 and 3.11. Okay, just hit next. It's going to ask you where to download these packages. So we're going to download, for example, to our downloads folder. You can select this one and then go to downloads. Select folder, and then just next. It's going to go online to download those packages. You can go to your downloads folder to take a look if you want, right? So we select the PostGIS and also 3 database drivers. Once it's done, then you can just hit next. It might take some time. Let me see here. It's still downloading the PostGIS. Okay. Are you sure you want to no, not close. It's actually here. It's still downloading, so we need to wait until it's finished. And this is the PostGIS, and then just hit next. So all the files have been downloaded here, and let's go ahead to install all the drivers. You can just accept all the default settings. It should be fine. And so this is the first one, the database driver. Hit finish, and it should pop up the next one. Just accept default settings again. Finish the second one, then should be the third one. Next, yeah, next. The last one will be the PostGIS. You will see here, this is just only 35 megabytes, so it's just a spatial extension, and that's the most important one we're going to use in this course. So you will see the title here, PostGIS bundle. Agree. You can also create the sample database, but this one is required, and the second one is optional. So you can also check this one. It's going to create a sample database, and just hit next. It's going to install to the default installation directory. You just hit next. Here it's going to ask you the database connection, and this is the password that we created earlier. So make sure you enter the password. Then earlier when we install PostgreSQL, it should be the same password. So then just next. This is the sample database name. We can just accept the default settings and then just hit install. It should only take a couple seconds, and once it's finished, then we can start testing the spatial database. Okay. Also here, it's going to ask you to register the project lib environment. So basically, this is needed. You just hit yes, and also the GDAL data, and basically it's going to create the environment variable so that you can access that or you can use that for the spatial database. So yes, yes, and yes, and we are almost finished. Okay, done, and then just hit close, and then finish. So it has been successfully installed. Then you can go to the start menu if you want. You might want to maybe scroll down to here to see the start menu, PostgreSQL setting. So here you can access all the things, for example, the application stack builder. Later, if you want to install some additional extensions or drivers, you can come to here and then select the database. So you can continue to install this. If this already installed, you will see here parentheses already installed. For example, spatial extension like PostGIS 3.1. These two already installed, so you can just hit cancel. So the next one we're going to use here is called PG admin, and you can go to the menu here and then click this one, or you can directly just search and then PG admin 4. Either one is fine. So let's click. It's open a browser, and then so we're going to manage the database using the browser. Very simple. So you don't need any desktop software. We can just use the web interface to manage the database. Okay, and first you need to enter the password. So this password is the one that we created when we install the PostgreSQL. So you just need to enter the password, then just hit OK. It should connect. So on the left side, you also need to enter the password for the super user to connect to the server. Okay, and again, it's the same password. Just hit that save password and then OK. I'm not going to save this one to Google Chrome. On the left side here, now you should be able to see this one, and this is basically the dashboard. You can see that the URL here from the browser, and this is the one whenever you open the pgAdmin, it's going to run within your browser. On the left side here, you see the server. You can create a new server if you want. You can also here, this is basically the group, and then within there you have the database. So from the database, we have the default one. We also have the one from PostGIS, right? So this is the one, the sample database that we created when we install PostGIS. And if you continue to select this one, you can go to, for example, the schemas, and then you can, for example, Tiger or Tiger data. You can also see the extension. So this one had come with some extension already installed. We're going to install, create a new database just to show you step by step how to create a spatial database. So once we have this, these two sample database, if you want to create a new one, you can do that. So just click database and then just right click. So from here, create database. You can choose a name. So the name of the database, we can just choose a name, for example, SDB, spatial database. If you want a long name, you can use underscore and something. I'm just going to use the shortest one, SDB. And then from here, when it's the owner is the Postgres. So this is the super user. This super user has access to all the database, and we can just use the default one. You don't need to change anything else. And so although we use the interface, but everything can be finished using the SQL command. So when we're trying to create a new database, it's essentially executing this kind of a command lines to create the database. And then so you can just hit save. It's going to create a new database. Okay, so on the left side here, now we have this new database, SDB, spatial database. You can check this one here, schemas, public. By default, it has a public schema. So you can see kind of just as a subdirectory under this database. And so next we're going to actually install the PostGIS extension. So if you see from, for example, if you click schemas and then from here functions, right now it has nothing. Also the tables, it also has nothing in there. But we're going to actually enable the spatial extension for this database so that we can later add some spatial data. What you need to do is to select the database and then go to tools. From here, just select query to. So, and here we're going to basically create the extension. You can just type create extension and then the TION, then just PostGIS. That's it. So this one basically is going to enable the spatial the PostGIS extension for this database. Then just click this one here, execute. So click or hit F5 on your keyboard. Just going to execute. Lower left corner, lower right corner here shows you how long this one took to run. And once you enable the PostGIS extension, you can right click here to refresh. And so next, let's go to the functions. And this time right now you see 695 functions. So those are the PostGIS functions later we can use to do spatial analysis. You can do all kind of a query to access the data, and this is very, very nice because you don't need to do things from scratch, and it has been enabled and we'll be able to use these functions. You can right now also click the tables, right? So we have a new table added automatically after we enable the PostGIS extension. So if you click this one, this is basically the spatial reference systems, and you can click the column. You will be able to see, for example, how many columns in there. And I can do a quick query to just show you what kind of data, for example, within this spatial reference system tables. So you can just come here and then just type select star from, and then it will be the name of the database, the table. So spatial underscore IF, and then SYS, then just hit run. You should be able to return the table. So lower right corner here shows you how many are being returned. And so for example, the here you see all the columns, right? That's the same thing that you see from here on the left side here, different column, and these are all the spatial reference IDs that you can use. And we're going to talk about more later in this course how to use this. Also, when you export the data, you also need to specify the reference ID. So if you have a number in here, this is the one that you can utilize. So the most common one here, it will be 4326. So not in here. Anyway, so this is a long list. You can scroll down to see the long list in here. And so most of the time, when you're trying to query the data, we need to write some SQL statements, and we're going to talk about more later in this course. But for now, this is enough for this video. So essentially, we install PostgreSQL, and we also install the PostGIS Spatial Extension, and after that we also create a spatial database, and you can enable the extension for any database you like, and later we can use QGIS or ArcGIS to load the data. I'm also going to show you how to load your spatial data into the database so that you can use different clients to access the data using a web browser or using a desktop software. Okay, so that's all for this video. I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.